At first, I was so blown away that I could be this small town girl from Alabama working in this studio that was actually, because one of the things about me in training was I did lift and I did all the, typical fitness things in a gym, but Pilates was coming on the scene at the same time that I was hired at Lodi Bert Method. It was really becoming a household name, and it had been on the scene for a while. But there was something about that style of workout that incorporated dance and the precision of Pilates and stretching and feminine exercises, but that was kicking my butt. Like, it kicked my butt. I was very fit. I went in extremely thin and extremely fit, but there were ways that I wasn't fit. I was not flexible and I did not have core strength at all. And so I was really thrilled to find something that just resonated with me, with being feminine, with being able to use some of my training in gymnastics and cheerleading and that precision. It really meshed with me. And so at first I was, again, pinch me. But over the year, and I was worked to death, I was 6 days a week. I taught 4 classes a day, and then I would still go in, and I was the student there. I was the one that was give me more. I want to learn from every senior teacher, every class that I can watch and observe and see how they correct. I couldn't get enough of it. I mean, I was there morning to night. I ended up living in the studio because there was an apartment there. I was always involved in it. And so, yes, I was happy, but there was something in me that I was still searching for. And the year that I was at Lodi Bert, that first big year where I was learning and teaching and becoming a teacher, I also was so searching for meaning. And I went to the meaning of life class at the New York School of Philosophy. And that was just down the street. It was like 10 blocks up in the Upper East Side still. And I remember going and being around all these people that were trying to find meaning in life. And it was kind of a religion thing. They would look at all these religions and then they would ask questions. I literally was looking around at all the people and they were participating in this class. And I felt like Woody Allen in his movies, where he's just am I the only one that thinks this is so dumb? I'm just going, this is so not the meaning of life. What is this? I had been in Buddhist temples. I had been going to all these different museums, the Museum of Natural History, and just all these cultural museums to look at other religions and see how people, I was really searching for my soul. My soul was there's something wrong here. There's something that's not connecting. You're not plugged in. This isn't making sense. And at the same time at Lodi Bert, women would come in who were 30 or 40 years older than me, or they would come in 20 years older than me or 10 years older than me. They'd have had children and they were beautiful and they would just be worrying about their bodies and they would be talking about their thighs. And I'm like, dude, if I am 70, I do not want to be thinking about my thighs. I just started to pick up on this body image thing that I carried and that these women had. And I'm like, nobody seems to be happy. Nobody is comfortable with and I would look at them and go, I don't see your flaws. I see your beauty. I see your strength. I'm not looking at you picking yourself apart like you're picking yourself, but yet I was picking myself apart. So I'm having this whole body image stuff just almost erupt and in my head. And then at the same time, I'm trying to find meaning in anything. What am I doing here? I mean, I was cast in my first DVD role, which by the director and producer who pretty much gave me my entrance into that world and taught me so much about teaching to the camera. And I had already gotten a raise. I was making great money for my age. I was getting set up with all these different guys that had lots of money. I was always looking for a man that had money. I wanted to marry rich. I lived in New York and I had my youth still and I was in shape and I was being promised all these career things that of course I wanted, and I was still miserable. And I had to go teach one night and I remember being like so depressed and so like, what am I gonna do? I cannot search anymore. I just don't know. And I said out loud, I actually grabbed my hair and I pulled it as hard as I could. I was just in so much pain. And I was like, God, I don't know what to do, but if you're real, I just need help. Like, I just need help. And I kid you not, I felt instantly like liquid peace, hope, and love, like tangible. I could touch it, just dropped on me for the first time after all of that searching, after going to this. I quit that New York Meaning of Life class. I did like 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm like, okay, that's so dumb. That's what I wanted. That's what I was trying to get. I had done drugs, and I had used alcohol. I had been excessively using exercise. I had been searching and all these, traveling and talking to these people and trying to find meaning. And I just asked if he were real, because I just always felt like there's no way he could be real. He's got to be too good to be true. And I felt like, what was that? And I ran downstairs and called my sister, and she's like, oh, Suzanne, that was Holy Spirit. That was God. And so I was so excited. I was like, could he really be real? Like, for real? And anyway, long story short, I was dating a guy who was very proud of his atheism. He was a Jewish atheist, and I say that because there's a point to that in my story. And I told him about that experience, and he just told me it was a figment of my imagination, and that the mind can really play crazy tricks. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, I couldn't deny it, but at the same time I was like, it really? Okay, so I went ahead and moved away from New York. I was done. I was tired of that rat race, and I wanted to move back and closer to my family. So I moved to Franklin, Tennessee. So I started this tiny studio. I'm so thankful to my parents and my siblings, because we did it together, and my dad and mom funded it and spent a lot of money to help us realize this dream, or me realize my dream of owning a studio. And nobody knew what bar was, and it's spelled B-A-R-R-E. It wasn't a household name by any means. No one knew how to pronounce it, and it really wasn't outside the major mass markets at that point. And so I had to just start it and just wait for people to come. I remember I had postcards printed out, and I'd put them around Franklin, and the first person who came to my class was a girl named Cherry Stone, and who is my best friend to this day. And then another girl, her name was Summer Furler, and she was the lead singer of the Newsboys at the time, the Newsboys Christian rock band, and his name was Peter Furler. And so Cherry came to my morning class, and Summer came to my afternoon class. And they went to the same church, and there are 900 churches, I think, in Franklin, Nashville. And they happened to go to the same church. They didn't know each other. And, but both of them were so physically beautiful. Cherry was a Miss Mississippi, and they were both extremely fashionable. I mean, you can imagine a rock star singer's wife. They're just both, I don't know, I had moved from New York, and so I was used to seeing like really like fashionable people and edgy people, and I knew that Summer must have like Christian faith, and like my sister did, because that was my sister's favorite band. And but I didn't really think anything about it. I'm like, everybody keeps asking me if I have a church, and so I'm just training them, trying to teach them bar. But I realized they both had the story of body image. They had body image issues in their past, just like me. And I had this, incredible fear of gaining weight. And just like I would say 99% of women, we all kind of have this identity crisis with the way we're supposed to look and how we're supposed to be valued in society, in Western society at least. And so I confided in them both different things, and Cherry befriended me and invited me out for dinner, and she just sort of built this relationship with me, and then Summer the same, and I had a weekend where I think I ate a peach slice too much. And I had a history of this, of hurting myself if I felt fat, even from a young child. I remember I would claw, especially around my waist, just claw and scratch myself, just with the most incredible self-hatred. But that weekend, and it's so funny because I thought about this today, but I ate too much, and I wasn't taking care of myself. I would go eat a big brownie sundae for dinner sometimes, and that would be it. I would eat peaches. I would eat like a bag of peaches. I was almost like binging on food. But then I wouldn't overall overeat, but I wasn't taking care of myself. But man, if I thought I had anything extra, it was punish mode. And I saw a paddle brush, which I never even thought about a brush being a paddle until today. And I thought, oh, it's a paddle brush. And I picked that paddle brush up that day, and I beat myself silly to like bruise it, especially my inner thighs. And that was really where my thing was my thighs too big. And I just beat myself and I had paddle bruises on my legs. And then I rammed myself into the wall and knocked off a picture, and it shattered. The glass shattered. And that next day I went to teach my classes. And I mean, it kind of felt good to do that. You know, it kind of felt good to punish myself. I felt like I deserved to be punished. And for eating that extra peach or peach slice or whatever it was. And I just thought because Cherry had these body image issues that she would relate to me. And she's sitting there, and they were my only two clients. And she was sitting across from me, and I told her what I did. I was like, man, I got these bruises now. I don't know. I just had a fit. I had a fit on myself, trying to make light of it. And she's like, and she looked at me and she's like, how is your relationship with Jesus? And I said, I don't know. I mean, I hadn't believed in him for years. I actually call myself a devout atheist. But I'd had that experience in New York where I'd felt him. And then she said, you know, because without Jesus, I'm nothing, and he's everything to me. And I said, okay. And I just loved her so much, and she was so beautiful to me, like physically, that I didn't want to disappoint her. I respected her so much. And she said, my husband Buzz and I want you to come to church with us. Would you come with us? It's Easter Sunday. And I said, okay, I will, I guess. And that afternoon, summer came, and she said, I just feel like telling you that if you ever need anything, you know, you can always come to see Peter and me. You can come to our house. We just want you to know that we're here for you. And so the same day, these two people are like really speaking to me like they care. So I agreed to go to church with Cherry and Buzz on Easter Sunday, and we went to their church, which was Bethel World in Brentwood, Tennessee. And I had been to Israel the year before with my boyfriend, and again, I went to a bar mitzvah, but they were Jewish by ethnicity. They were not believers in any kind of higher power or anything. I was still dating him. I didn't tell him I was going to church. I think I kept that quiet. I think we were kind of I don't even remember if we were still actually dating, but we were still in a relationship. And when I got to, so he was a Jewish atheist, proudly. And I was a proud atheist as well. But I was like, something's going on here. And I got to church, and it was like Israel had come to that church, because the music was just incredibly, it felt so Hebrew, it felt so Middle Eastern. It was just I was like, this is not the church that I'm used to. I'm used to like hymnals and standing there and singing out of a hymnal and boring. And this is like the most amazing music I've ever heard in my life. But the craziest part was when the pastor got up to preach the sermon, and he was talking about Jewish atheists from New York City. And I was like, my jaw was on the ground. I'm like, this cannot be too good to be true. This has got to be, like, how could this be? This is not coincidence. Like, this just doesn't happen if there's not something out there. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm in. And Jesus became my everything and was like the purpose that my soul had been searching for.